Be strategic and get whatever you want. So in this video, I want to first of all go over what is strategy. Then I want to go over the two key components of strategy in applying it to your life. And then some examples from my own life and some anecdotes and tips and tricks and extra information about strategy. So first of all, what is strategy, right? And so you might wonder, strategy is something normally you would talk about in the context of playing games, but really your whole life should be looked at as a sort of game of chess. Maybe that's a bit mechanistic, but the point of this analogy is that it's sort of asking you how would you get what you want, right? Where would you move your pieces each move? How would you spend each turn? What are you really trying to achieve on the board? But there are obviously some differences with the game of actual chess. So most importantly, there's no competitor really, except maybe yourself. There's no enemy team. But another thing is that most people are not really using their moves at all. So most people, they have these chess pieces, but how many people do you know who are consciously using their life to create something? It's very little, very few people, right? So most people are either not doing any moves or just moving their pieces in random order for no real reason. And so they're not winning any games. There's no particular area where they're winning because they're not really trying, apart from what they're forced to do by work and school. And if you think this analogy is maybe a bit mechanistic and making it feel a little bit too rigid and technological, you could also consider if you have a strong purpose in life, right? You want to be able to excel in life and do as much as you can with this life because it's precious to you. And so all strategizing is just asking yourself, how could I get to where I need to go, right? How can I achieve as much as possible in the short time that I have? And so I think that brings me on to the two key components of what being strategic really means. Because it's good to say be strategic, but there needs to be an explanation of what it really entails. And so the two key parts, if you want to slowly unlock and achieve new things in each area of your life, right, are one, you need to work hard and long on each activity. You have to work hard. This is a prerequisite, right? If you can't work hard, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about most people can only work hard on what they're forced to do because of some external circumstance like their school or their workplace, right? You need to be able to work hard on whatever game you want to play or whatever area you want to excel at and achieve in. And this is a really big skill, and most people don't have the discipline simply or the belief to be able to do this. And to be honest, the second thing though is even harder because this is even rarer, and it's the ability to really continuously contemplate every area of your life, to really just every day reiterate, look at what you're doing and think, is this really what I want to be doing with my life? And you need to do this because working hard and long is good, but it's insufficient if you're not doing it on the right things. And so how are you going to know if you're doing work on the right things? And so it's just vital that you continuously, you need to analyze, record data, look at what you're doing every day. For example, in the gym, this workout, this routine, is it getting me gains? Is it improving my physique? Is it helping me? What are the pros? What are the cons? Because you can keep doing the same routine, but it would just be annoying to discover later on that there was a much better routine. And so that's why it's so vitally important. And this is even rarer. Most people, they just do the same activity forever and ever and ever, and there's barely any improvement or change ever made to it. In my own life, probably one area where I've done this the most is meditation and sort of the mental side of things, and doing each technique for maybe a year or two, and then having new techniques be fed into that. For example, I used to do this awareness technique, and then I discovered silencing, which I think I've talked about on the channel before. And then I discovered positive thinking, and then I discovered letting go. And it's some of these I knew about already. I knew about positive thinking, I knew about letting go, but at the time earlier it wouldn't click for me. But for some reason later on, as I'd been doing these other practices, then it would start to click for me. And so you can see how important it is to do both of the things I mentioned, work hard and long, as well as continuously reiterating, so that when something new comes about, you're flexible enough to be able to just go for the new activity. And then you try that for a while, and then, you need to not be scared as well, because if you're too scared, then you'll never switch activity, because you're scared of maybe the new thing won't work, and maybe it won't. But that's just part of trying, and it's worth it. If you find something that works, you can stick with that forever, and until the next thing comes about, and then so on. And so, yeah, as I said, I already knew about some of these things, and they just didn't click at the time. And you can understand now, in the world of business, why do businesses spend so much money on R&D? It's for the same exact reason, because they don't want to. Making the same product over and over again is going to lead to wasted profit. If they had instead focused on researching new techniques, new ways to build products, new marketing activities, then they would be able to make even more profit in the long run. And so that's why they have such high, sometimes ridiculously high expenditures on R&D, because they know it's the highest return area possible, to not only to stay competitive, but just so that they can continuously keep finding better and better ways to do the same thing, which is really what you're doing in your own life, but with the benefit that you don't really have competitors except yourself. And so all the contemplation, all the strategizing for me in my own life, all the meditation and all of this, it unlocked the new stuff. And another final point that I want to make is that your mind thinks it's conscious to the whole process. It thinks that it understands, notice that when you unlock something new, if you have this experience and you find some new technique or workout or something, your mind thinks it already knew why it happened. And it creates a sort of post-event rationalization. And the problem is that this isn't even the truth. This is just a rationalization you created to explain the event afterwards. And the reason this is a problem is because it makes you less flexible. And so you really need to be able to get rid of your stubbornness. And if you really want faster growth, you need to be able to appreciate somehow that the future you will have a different point of view than the present you. And so what that means is that you'll be able to contemplate deeper, right? And get newer ideas and go really deeper with this process of strategizing, because you're accepting that the future you isn't going to think like the current you. See, most people, they imagine the future them, and they don't realize that they're imagining the future from their current perspective. And so you don't realize how limited your current perspective really is. You have no knowledge of this. And why should you? Because you're seeing everything through that lens. And just being able to appreciate and know that the future could be different will just instantly unlock doors and allow you to really think outside the box with honestly anything and any area possible. Not just meditation and these things that I talk about, but with any area of your life that's important to you. And maybe even for bigger things, if you're a business owner, it's so scalable. We even see this with large businesses, like I said, with R&D. And I think that's where I'll end this.